life shine. You gotta be working to get the woman and the wine. Keep the beat and get your hands in the air. Shuffle it quick cause it's an African affair. To go from the park and our home at St. George's. We're bringing the silverware back on the borders. That's the way of the warrior. That's the way of the warrior. That's the way of the warrior. That's the everyday warrior.
Welcome to Gino Spots Tuesday night, 6:30 every single Tuesday. Never failed. We've never failed to be on a Tuesday.
I must say, this is a guest that I've really been wanting to talk to for a long time.
For sure, and
captivated us in the 1980s.
He did, and amazing. Because I'm really keen to hear how he got things going on, and the real story with racing at that time as well. You know. It wasn't as much of a science as I think I don't have to ask him about it, but it wasn't as much of a science as it is today. But so like raw talent there.
But as always, great to be here.
Yes, Fires, lucky to have you on again. And always an interesting guest when Fires is on. When we do the when Fireball comes on, it's always a different guest. Something that I wouldn't necessarily get. I mean. I know, and you've got the freedom to choose anybody in the country, which is quite nice.
Yeah, I must say I'm very blessed I think we're very blessed to have a guy like Bruce Fordyce with us.
Yeah,
I know there's a lot of interest from PE people, especially guys who Bruce knows from the running world.
Yes, and I believe he's got family here as well. We're talking about Bobby Stevenson. We'll check. We just had a quick chat with him before. But thank you to our sponsors. Spa have been with us from. She was for 3 years now already. Fitch and Leeds as well. On the other side, they were right at the beginning when during all those horrible, nasty days that we got going, and the COVID times, and then of course Sovereign has just jumped aboard, and they've been with us, the chicken guys, PE based, we try and get the PE things flowing, because this is basically a show to get people together, to get people to come to one spot on a Tuesday night and just chat and have a little question every now and again. So if you let us know where you're watching from and what you're doing, what you're drinking. Fires has finished 2 of my beers already.
I've got another one.
We've got another one. You've got a flying fish noch as well in summer.
We've got to get beers
gin and tonic. We'll have to get some more beers for you, because
no problem.
Fires needs that stuck petrol to keep him going.
Cheers.
And cheers. And also the weather's been amazing, and the weather guru is telling us that the dams are off overflowing, apart from Mpofu, which I think is underneath Churchill and Kocha. So the Churchill and Kocha are now overflowing, and they're pushing that water into the Mpofu. I think we're up to about 26%, 27% as well in Mpofu, which is the biggest one. So we need to get that in Mpofu.
What I find intriguing about it is 3 months ago we had water for 6 days or 5 days.
Yeah.
How do they measure now that we've got water for 1,800 days? I mean,
it's amazing. Once the ground's saturated, then it's runoff. Then the runoff just hits those dams. So we've got to keep going. We're going to hope.
And more rain coming.
Yeah. This weekend, I believe as well. We're also going to be doing. I'm heading out to the milk fierce out there, Woodlands Dairy. They always do the milk fierce out there towards Camp Tues, and there's a trail run there. So I'm going to run a bit of trail. I'm going to do a bit of running just for Bruce Fordyce. And I've got this here because I heard that he was over in England for a while, and he came across again. So I've worn my English. I've worn my tails just for him as well tonight.
You're schooled in England for a time, I think.
Schooled. We'll check to him now.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we've also got a couple of questions that are lined up as well from Alec Riddle, who's now is in Morocco at the moment. So we're gonna fire some of those off as well a little bit later. And of course, Alec Riddle and Bruce was a great runner, Alex as well.
I'm sure great mates as well.
Crazy, good mates. There we go. All right, so and let's see a little bit of a clip of Bruce Fordyce in his
Good
prime
memories.
there, giving a couple of good memories, and then we'll get him on immediately. Let's do this.
By now, the Comrades was the most important single sporting event in South Africa. This was due to several factors, including the charisma of Fordyce, South Africa's sporting isolation, an explosion in the popularity of endurance events for the average person, and finally all-day live television coverage of the Comrades itself. Fordyce's tactics of coming from behind with the famous Sting handshake, marking the final overtake before the run into victory, were renowned. By the end of his career, he had won 9 races, more than any other person, and held both the up and down records.
A truly superb performance in extremely trying conditions. A winning time of 5 hours, 37 minutes and 1 second.
There we are. Just taking a last bit of tea.
Bring back good memories.
But because of you two guys drinking your beers there, I've put through an order for a glass of wine.
Excellent.
I saw you on the phone in the
I thought this was drinking tea.
Tell me, does that bring back good memories?
You know what's interesting about it? Funny enough, you showed the 1985 Comrades, which was probably one of the hardest I ever ran. But I have, and this got to be careful. This is not an me conversation. But I have the ultimate fluke in the Comrades Marathon, which nobody else in the entire history of the race has got. I have 2 identical finishing times. Identical. And if you work 90 Ks, and I don't know, 75,000 people or whatever who've run, I don't know, more than that, whatever, nobody has an identical time, but I do. And both of them will win. So what you saw there was 5:37.01 and 5:37 and 1 second. And 2 years later on the up run, I ran 5:37.01. On stage, you could try and look at your watch, but why would you? You're trying to win the race. So you just win. But I got 2 identical times. So there you go.
And they're talking about the Sting handshaker.
Yeah.
Was it really?
I remember Mark Page getting that handshake once. Was it in Polly Shorts?
You know what it was? It became the Sting handshake, but it actually, well, I'm trying to work out when I did it first. I think 1985, at the bottom of this big mountain on the up run, Polly Shorts, I caught, I think I caught Hosea Charlie, and I felt so bad for him because he'd been leading for so long. So I tapped him on the shoulder, and I just gave him like a handshake, like one of those,
Yes,
and then it became expected of me. The following year was Bob Delamotte. He got the handshake. And then the following year, it was Hosea Charlie again. And then I think 88 was Mark Page. But it wasn't really a sting of death. It was more a handshake of recognition of excellence, that here we are in front, we're leading 10,000, 15,000 runners. Isn't it a privilege to be in front? And without being too big-headed, aren't we running magnificently? And you've been running magnificently. So it wasn't, it's over for you, mate. It was mutual recognition. Like at the end of the rugby, when you see the guys swapping jerseys, it's that kind of thing.
Yes.
Sadly, one of us has got to win, but we both run magnificent. So it was more that kind of handshake.
No, definitely. Well, I remember it being that when we're watching, I always remember that handshake being that here we go, we're in this together kind of thing, So it was never, I never saw it as a sting. It was honestly a bit of press afterwards.
It was a fairly firm handshake, though, just so that the other guy knows a lot of strength in here still.
And Bruce, something that's always intrigued me, when you approach that finishing line, what sort of state or condition is your body in? Has the pain gone?
It depends, it depends which year it was. They're all different. I mean, so I've had some when I was hanging on, At 82, I was hanging on for dear life. And then I had some others like 83. If you'd said to me it's 10K, you've got to do another 10Ks, I would have done them. But the biggest thing, to be honest, is just an overwhelming sense of wonder. It's just, you can't pinch yourself. I'm going to win the Comrades. It's an enormous thing to finish the Comrades. My first Comrades, I was 43rd. And I remember being overwhelmed that I was in, but to win. And you see, as you approach the end, and you realize you're getting there, it really is. And it's a bit like, I don't know if you've watched those Tour de France stages in the mountains when there's thousands, the spectators right alongside you screaming. The vehicle has to get them out the way. And also people are strange. When they see a television, they want to appear on it. So they're all running around you. I'm on TV. And then some of them try and keep up with you. They want to see how fast is the Comrades leader going. So some of them do quite well because they've only run 100 meters and you've run 90K. But then the most amazing thing, if you win Comrades, as you come to the stadium, there's a little boy or a girl. Though this year they gave it to a huge guy to do the job, Tox van der Linde. But they hand you a baton. It's like a relay baton in the colors of Comrades. It's black and gold of Comrades. And inside that baton, so the leader carries, and I'm happy to report that the ladies winner also carries a baton now. Inside that is a rolled up letter from the mayor of the city that you left to the mayor of the city that you're arriving at, and you carry that thing. And I promise you, when you get the baton, it's like a magic wand or Excalibur coming out of the lake, or I don't know, a lightsaber, and all the pain just drains away. I don't think there's a single Comrades winner who it just drags your arm up into the air, and you just pump the air, and then it's an incredible. And then you win, and they take the baton from you straight away and give it to the mayor, but. I started to realize after a couple of times, and I'm lucky enough to have carried the baton 9 times, and I would sell my soul for another time, but I think I sold my soul a glass of wine. But but the baton, I've realized, is actually it's not just a baton for the winner; it's a door knocker. And what it is when you carry that baton, you run around the last lap, you're knocking on the door for all the spectators. There may be 20,000 people in Kingsmead or wherever you finish, and you're knocking on the door to say, yes, I'm winning, but stand by to be amazed, because I'm knocking on the door to tell you behind me come the most astonishing human beings you have ever seen in your life. I'm winning because I trained hard, but more importantly, because I chose my parents very carefully. The rest of them are struggling against all sorts of human frailty. Some of them, when the leader comes in, are going through halfway. And so the baton is like knock, knock, knock. Oh, where did I hear knock, knock, knock from Macbeth? Yeah, Macbeth. The doorkeeper, knock, knock, knock. Now there's a fine when he's got a hangover. There's a fine knocking indeed. And it's telling everybody, just stand by to be completely gobsmacked, because you're going to see the most incredible human courage, companionship, comradeship, people helping each other all day long. Here they come. So he's waxing a bit lyrical there, but anyway, it's
very valid point.
Always wonder what it says in that letter. Because I know you used that theme for your book as well, the Winged Messenger.
Thank you for printing that. Yeah, I wrote a book. Yeah. That's great.
Yes, he did the book, and I know you used the Comrades thing with the wings and the.
Because I called it Winged Messenger, my book, because it sounds very pretentious, but it's how to run your first Comrades based on my first Comrades. Yeah. Because I have these things, and I'll show you one now, that just next to my desk here. Here it is. That is a Comrades training diary from the 1980s.
Whoa.
There's all the mileage and all the stuff, and it's all in there. Okay. Races are written in red, and there is anyway. So
ye olde exercise book.
That must be worth.
I took my first Comrades, and I described exactly what I did to run my first Comrades, which was not to win. I just wanted to finish. And then I attached notes to it, whatever. And I called it Winged Messenger because the logo, the badge of Comrades is Hermes, the winged messenger of the Greek
yes.
gods. His Latin name is Mercury. And so that's why I said, and so what I say to people is when you finish Comrades, you become a winged messenger, because Hermes was a unique Greek god, and the Greek gods were such fun. They were naughty, they were they got drunk, they womanized, they
Klompmeyers.
I don't know, modern gods are so boring. They were really fantastic, the Greek gods. And so Hermes was one who had special powers. He wasn't in the pantheon of the great gods like Zeus and Jupiter. Zeus and Jupiter, the same person. Like Zeus and Athena and Aphrodite, but he was the next level. But he was the god of the roads, which is appropriate. But most importantly, he was the winged messenger. He brought messages to you. He was the only god who could go to the underworld, the world of the dead, and he could bring you messages from your loved ones who have passed away. Take back. But he was also the only god who could travel over time. So he could go back in time and come forward in time. And so that's why I called it the winged messenger, because the person you are after you've run the Comrades is not the same person you were before. You have changed forever. You have changed positively forever. So I don't know where I was. Anyway, I was punching my book heavily. So this is
the message. That was the message from the mayor. It was like, come and have a couple of beers sometime.
No, the message is very cool. It's always greetings from the mayor of Comrades, the mayor of Durban. Today has seen a wonderful example of courage and blah, blah, blah. And isn't this wonderful for our two cities? Because it's worth millions, the tourism and all that to the two cities.
Of course.
But last thing about my book, just the last thing, just in case people think. So my family advised me, because we printed it ourselves. I wrote it, we printed it ourselves. We had to come up front with the cash. They said print 50 copies. Okay. Then our great friends, the Thunderbolts, said to all the family, said, you're insulting Bruce. It's going to be much more successful than that. Print 500. Well, I'm rapidly approaching 9,000 sales.
Well done.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And the key thing is not because it's a masterpiece, but because I go to the running clubs and I talk, and I give a talk about how to train for Comrades, and then I sign them and I put a personal message in it. It's like,
there you go.
Perfect.
For a Christmas present for the runner in your life. 200 Rand. I mean, what you're going to get, a soap on a rope or a pair of knotty socks.
4 beers. 4 beers. Faisal have that in like 10 minutes.
And Bruce, just to go back to the start of it, what actually got you into running, especially the Comrades?
So it's a combination of factors. I think a combination is supposed to be 2 things. So it's a mix of factors. It is, first of all, Comrades was always, it's in the South African DNA, so it was there. And we had a maths teacher at school, which explains why I got an E for matric in maths and just straight. So nowadays, that's a very high mark, given our politicians. An E is extremely right up there in the stratosphere, getting an E. But because we had double maths, which I couldn't stand, and we had a teacher who Comrades. And if we got Mr. Pete Mayer to talk about Comrades, we could get through half of the double maths lesson while he just spoke about it. Okay. So there was that. He'd run it a couple of times. You see, I mean, I often wonder, does you remember the little blonde guy at the back of the class, and that little guy went on to win it? I wonder if he'd. But anyway, and then I used to listen to it on the radio. So my early heroes were Dave Bagshaw, who won 69, 70, 71. Derek Price, 74, 75. I'm trying to remember. I used to listen on the radio because we didn't have television in those days. But then finally we did get television. 1976. People don't remember. The youngsters. Yes. They're corn trees. They don't know. There was a time when there was no TV. And we rode our bicycles. We got
it was Ostas and Niskas.
We listened to Springbok Radio. So 1976, they showed Comrades on television, not live. They couldn't do it live. They showed a kind of packaged version of the race about 2 weeks later. And I never for one moment, Alan Robb won that year, and I never for one moment thought that one day Alan and I would be bitter rivals, great friends, but bitter rivals on the road. And we would dice each other and give each other a hiding 2 consecutive. He beat me once and then I beat him. But it was more that I was looking at the ordinary guys and thinking, if that guy can do it, that guy can do it, I can definitely do it. So that was the one spark. The other one was my girlfriend, the beautiful Elaine, broke up with me, so I had suppressed libido. I miss her. I told her she was in my book. I used to run from her place a little bit. I told her she's in my book, and I said, listen, she's married and she's got a family and lives in the UK. I said, if it's offensive to you, or you're a bit worried, or you've got a jealous husband or whatever, I'll just put my girlfriend. But otherwise, if I can put your name in, it would be easier. It's just not so clumsy. You know what her answer was? Which photograph are you using of me? That's it. That was that. And then finally, and this was quite a serious thing. This was June 1976 that I watched on television, and I marched with a whole lot of Witsies on June the 16th to Soweto. We naively marched in solidarity. And my great mate, by the way, is still a great mate of mine, Paul Ziller, Helen Ziller's brother. We marched together, and we naively thought we're going to show our solidarity, and we're going to show that we also care, and this is outrageous. And we got murdered by the police on the Queen Elizabeth Bridge. No Joburg. That means we made 400 meters from Wits, from the exit of Wits. Queen Elizabeth Bridge.
400 meters only.
Yeah, and I've got a photograph in my book, actually, of my one classmate running, Christine, with blood pouring down her face because she'd been hit over the head with a truncheon. Those cops didn't mess around her, and they also weren't particularly fond of the Witsies at that time. So anyway, so I had a kind of like a lonely feeling, suppressed libido, no girlfriend, and then wanting some kind of control of my destiny. And so to have a project, I think that's one of the things, if you're depressed or something, like, to have a project, to have a goal. My goal from day one was not to get fit, not to get healthy, not to lose weight. My goal from day one was to run the following year's Comrades. That was it.
So that would have been the 77 Comrades.
I was going to run the next year's Comrades. So it just happened that it was like a calendar year, almost exactly, so that I could run the next Comrades. 77.
So 77. So that was your first one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is that where you ended 43rd?
My first one, I came 43rd. Yeah.
It's not a bad start.
Yeah, I remember there were fewer runners then. I mean, to put things into perspective, there were 1,500 runners. There was a different flag, a different national anthem. There were maybe 5 or 6 women, maybe 10 or so black runners, very few. Because black runners and women had only been allowed to run since 1975.
Yes.
It was a new phenomenon. So 43rd, I probably now, if I did 6:45, that would probably make me 200th or something like that nowadays. I think something like that.
And did you have any objective? Was it just, I'm going to run the Comrades?
I'm going to run the Comrades. But by the time I got there, my clubmates, my Wits clubmates, I was a member of Wits Athletic Club. They told me, Bruce, you're silver. You're going to get a silver medal. In fact, you're going to get a very solid silver, because silver is 7.5 hours, and I did 6:45. They knew, because they can see from your short. So they already knew, no, this guy's good. But that didn't mean I was going to win it. Just I'm going to run a good race.
Yes.
Okay.
And when did you realize that, hang on a sec, I can win this thing?
So the following year, I finished 14th. In 78 down run, I finished 14th. And I got to 10th. So top 10 is gold medal. I got to 10th. I was just too weak at the end. But I saw ahead of me, I saw 6, 7, and 8, 9. I saw 6, 7, 8, 9, not far ahead of me. And I realized these guys are also smashed. They're also crawling. They're also tired. They're also human. The only person that day who was not human, and don't tell him I praised him, because he'll think I'm getting weak. But the only person who was not human that day was Alan Robb. He won by 20 minutes. He was 20 minutes ahead. So Alan Robb against the clock. He was the first runner to break 5:30 in Comrades, and then there was the rest of us. And in fact, there's a great photograph that I've got in one of my scrapbooks, because I kept a scrapbook then, because I started getting my name. You see, your name's there. Leave it open on pages where maybe girls will see it. And be impressed. But there's a great photograph, because it's Alan in the shower at Kingsmead. It was a down run, and he's behind these swing doors of the shower, and you can see the showers, and his and his running vest is hanging on a peg with a towel, and he's in the shower. And the headline on that photograph is, "And no one else has finished yet."
Gee,
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he had that really short running style. His cadence was higher.
Yeah, it really looks wimpish, but it's fast.
Are you guys still in touch? Are you guys in regular contact with one another?
No, I spoke to Alan the other day. He's in Port Alfred. He won 4.
Okay.
And then we had
Yes.
2 brutal races against each other. 1980, he beat me. I came second. And then 1982, I beat him. He came second. So we both know. And second, by the way, is the worst position in any race.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Second just leaves you thinking, what? Yeah.
So just to get this right, 81, you started on this crusade of 8 consecutive wins.
78, I came 14th. And that gave me an idea that I could make top 10. Maybe not win, because Alan was so far ahead of us all. But then 79, 79 was my breakthrough. It was up. And that's where I learned that I love the up run more than the down run.
Okay.
I finished third.
Okay.
And I would have sold my soul. I would have sold my soul for 10th. You know, if you'd offered me 10th at the start, I would have taken it. And to finish third and to be on the podium, and to be unknown, you know, I was completely unknown. I got to the top of Potty Shorts, and in those days they had CB radios. They didn't have cell phones. And one of the race organizers in a car said, "Listen, Vitsi, we can't read your number," because my number was a bit crumpled. They said, "Who are you?" Because we finished third. And when that was, I was just a massive smile running around the field at the end. You know, I just had such a huge, And so I can tell you the podium positions in a race. It's a huge generalization, but it's correct. Third place, most of the time, is over the moon, because they didn't think we would get on the podium, and they jumping up and down. They're so excited. I can't believe it. I'm on the podium. What a big fat bronze. Second place is hacked off beyond all belief, because of what they are always bitter. They're always staring at the ground. And then first place is quite interesting. First place is not necessary, and this is a generalization, but first place is not always as happy. And the movie Chariots of Fire resonates for me, because at the end of the movie they come back from Paris, where they've all had a great team, the English team, British team, and they're all drinking champagne and celebrating. Their girlfriends and families are there. And Harold Abrahams, who won the 100 meters for Britain, he gets off the train last, and he's just looking down at the floor, and he closes the door, and he's got his case with his gold medal in it. And he's just walking slowly towards his girlfriend and his best mates, but he's not drinking champagne. And the girlfriend, Sybil, turns to the great friend and said, "What's wrong with Harold?" And the great friend says, "No, Sybil, you don't understand. He won." He won. None of the rest of us won. And he's now thinking, now what do I do with my life? I've achieved. I've always dreamt of. I've achieved. Now what am I going to do? I've got no more excuses. You know, so winning.
I think Tim Briscoe is in St. Francis there. I think he came in. I think was it fourth. I think in the 1981 too.
Yeah, Tim. Oh, Tim Briscoe. Don't worry, man. My heart used to bleed for him, because he always used to finish 10th and 11th, and he did 12th. And that was terrible. And then one in 1980, he got 4th or 5th. He finally got that gold. And I promise you, he was also a lion smile coming around the field at the end.
Okay,
lovely. He goes out paddling with me every now and again. I see him at surfing out at Hewlett's at St. Francis. He's in St. Francis now.
And Bruce, sorry, you made a comment about the up run versus the down run. You said you preferred the up run.
Yeah.
What is the difference, and why?
So the up run seems to favor the smaller guys and girls who are strong legs, good heart, good lungs, because you've got to carry your body weight up all those hills. It's the first marathon of the up run for many people will be the hardest 42K marathon they've ever run in their lives, but they've got to do another one. But I seem to enjoy it. Whereas the down run, Alan Robb said, I won 6 ups and 3 downs. So I'm not going to knock the down, but I was much more dominant up. Alan won 3 downs and 1 up. So I always tease him. I always say to him, Alan, only one up, mate. Jeez, that's
Well, clearly, because I mean, obviously the weight was right. You were strong runner.
Alan took that pitter patter stride, and he went down those hills. Whereas I used to finish the down run, legs are shattered, absolutely shattered. And I always, if you said to me, describe the difference. The up run shows what kind of an athlete you are. You've got to carry your body weight all the way to Maritzburg. The down run shows what kind of a masochist you are, because you've got to withstand the pain of the
legs.
And I always thought that I never reached my genetic limit going downhill. I always thought there was space somewhere in there for me to go a bit faster, but where I couldn't work out. Whereas up run, don't think you could get too much more out of me. You know, I think I kind of got close to my limit. Yeah.
And your strategy, Bruce, because very often you'd only really start appearing after 3 or so hours.
Longer. You see, the problem is it's 90 kilometers of the most brutal hills. Whether you're going up or down, it's got ups and downs. I mean, the down run's got horrendous uphills as well. And I cannot believe how people start. They start like scalded cats, and they're out of there. And you think, mate, even if you win it, you are going to run for 5.5 hours at 3 minutes, 35 seconds a K with no breaks, no rest, no recovery, like these other pathetic sports like rugby and cricket. And hello, in cricket, they break for tea. Have you ever in your life heard of anything more? Come on, chaps, let's go and have some cucumber sandwiches and some tea. In rugby, they have a half time. I mean, hello, you have a juice and a rub, and the coach lectures you about your take. And in rugby, they've got a bench just as you get into the replacement.
No such luck in the Comrades.
Yeah, you guys used to have like I mean, you were talking about in the beginning where I think I heard you speaking about it at a talk I watched. It's like a sponge. I saw these guys sticking a sponge in the freaking water. It's like Jesus with the sponge, you know, put it in the vinegar. And
well, you sponge. I mean, you sponge a lot, but I think. Yeah, I forgot my point. Anyway, I lost the
point.
I think also strategy. Also, what I'd like to hear is strategy then and strategy now, because the guys are making it a science these days, you know.
And you guys is so simple. And I discuss strategy every time I'm at a club talk and I'm selling my book. Did I mention I have a book? But anyway, so the strategy is simple. There it is. Thank you. Wasn't I good looking? Good looking.
Fantastic.
Pretty, long flowing blonde hair, almost all gone. But my strategy was simple: start like a coward and finish like a hero. That's it. You start as cautiously as you can, and you pick it up gradually as you start to realize that's okay. I've got if you're doing up run, I've got Cowie's Hill behind me. That's great. Okay. Can pick it up a little bit. I've got Fields Hill behind me. Okay, here we go. And that was it. So it wasn't really that I was attacking from behind. It was that the other guys were coming back. They were coming back. And so I learned I mean, I did run a slightly faster second half in most Comrades, but that was more because the adrenaline started going. You know, when you start going and you see, here you come around the corner and you realize, there's the race leader. I'm going to go into the lead now. And then the other thing that I generally tried to do was to take the lead as late as possible. You want to take the lead as late as you possibly can, because it is horrendous in front. It is so frightening. You're being hung out there to dry. You know, everyone's hunting you. So you take the lead as late as possible. You take it convincingly. You take it on a big hill near the end. You open up a gap as fast as possible and close the door behind you, and then just keep going. That was my approach. Okay, so sometimes I get quite a big lead, but So start like a coward, finish like a hero.
So you would essentially then launch your attack based on it wouldn't be at a particular place along the route.
It felt right.
It would depend on.
It would be in the last quarter of the race. I mean, until then, down run you've got to be a bit closer to the action. You can't let them get too far away because your legs get so hammered that no matter how strong you are, you can't turn them over. Up run you can let the guys. I mean, in one up run, Mark Page was 10 minutes ahead of me. That's a long way at our pace. It's nearly 3 Ks. and I put 6 minutes on him at the end. So I caught him and put 6 minutes on him. You see, so that and so it's just that. Yeah, that the last bit it's really tough. You know, the last 20 Ks.
And what about eating and stuff on the way? I mean, surely you had to replenish stuff and the watering points.
No eating.
No cucumber salamis,
No eating, nothing.
Well, remember, this is going to sound very arrogant, but if you win, you're finished in time for brunch. We did the high energy drinks and that kind of stuff, but no eating. No, at that speed and in the front, all your blood is being diverted to the working muscles, your heart, your legs, even your arms, because they're pumping. There's no time for them to start sorting out, I don't know, egg and bacon or something that you had.
Because I always think like that with the short distance, it's always your heart that you need to get. The heart keeps going. But I mean, when you're running 3 minutes 35, okay, your heart's going to be going full tilt. What was your average heart rate in these as you were running?
I've no idea. You put your finger
on
it.
There was no watches. This is the thing. There was no like GPS. There was no.
I had a Mickey Mouse watch that had the Mickey's hands, and then it had a second. It had a second function that could do a stopwatch, but I never looked at my watch. I used to look at it at halfway, just to get an idea of what. Okay, it's a fast Comrades. Okay, it's a slow one, and then I would look at it at the end and say, "Oh, look, there's a record possibly." But you see, the problem with Comrades is the distance markers. It's a sadistic race. And the whole of the rest of the distance markers are put to encourage you. So if you run the London Marathon or a race like that, you'll run for a while and you'll pass a board or an arch that says 1. That means you've done 1 English mile. Well done. You've got 25 to go. But in Comrades, no, they put it in reverse order. So if you see something in the dark, you'll see 89 Ks to go. What does that mean? It just means it's far. And hours later, you'll see 67 Ks to go. What does that mean?
Very far.
You run Comrades in landmarks, and the way I differentiate between the two, and that's the mistake that modern runners are making. The training for a marathon is a science. You follow the rules. You put in the long runs. You put in the speed work. All that stuff. The running of the race is an art. On that day, you paint your own canvas, depending how hot is it, what is the opposition doing, how do I feel, is there a wind? You cannot have this thing that, oh my goodness, I'm 2 minutes slow going through 10 Ks, I've got to try and speed up. Maybe you're 2 minutes slow because the conditions are hard, so I used to do it on feel.
Okay, that's incredible.
And as a
being an archaeologist, and as I told you earlier before we went live, I was at Marapeng today looking out because I've got to give a talk on the early hominids. We, as an early hominid species, and we still are, the best running animal on the planet.
Yeah.
We hunted animals in the past. We ran them to exhaustion. And we acted as a pack and we ran. We have a tremendous advantage. We have all these ligaments and tendons and that we are a beautiful running machine and we can sweat, which is a huge gift that a lot of animals can't do. Dogs have to pant. So yes, a cheetah is faster than us. And yes, I don't know, a wild dog can run pretty quickly for a long time, but we are the best. And we ran animals into a state of exhaustion where they turned, and it sounds brutal, and we clubbed and beat them to death with stones and sticks and ate them. That's just for my vegetarian friends out there.
But you touched early on the genetics, and I think you mentioned that you were very lucky that you could select your parents. What role do the genetics play?
So the genetics play a huge role. And I'll tell you why, because the other day I got off the plane at Joburg Airport, and I got on the bus. Sometimes you've got to get on the bus. It's always a pain in the neck because there's always somebody talking loudly in their cell phone saying, I told him to sell the shares. I told him to sell the shares. And he hasn't. It's always somebody who wants to hear their conversation, how important they are. It's so I always go, listen, I'll phone you back. I'm on the bus. I'll be there just now. Yeah, I don't want everyone to hear my conversation and bore them. But anyway, there are these people who think it's important. They should talk. Anyway, so I got on the bus. And I stood, and I happened to stand, holding onto the rail, and I happened to be holding onto the rail next to Bucky's Boerter. Now, I am the size of Bucky's right leg, That's my intention. And so there you realize, to be a Springbok lock, as great as Bucky's was in his day, you have to, you got to be that size. Your genetics have got to. So my genetics are predisposed to be very light, strong legs, good heart, good lungs, and run well, and no brain cells, because it is a really stupid. It's a stupid thing to do for no prize money. In my day there was no prize money. Nothing.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you that.
Yeah, so we're also going to speak about that. I just want to do a quick have a look at some of there's a whole lot of comments that have come in as well. I don't know if there's anything that Gary can slot in there.
I forgot about the comments.
To see, there's people watching live. Obviously, everyone's watching live, so they said you're watching from Paul. There we go.
Catherine,
that's my cousin from Paul. There we go. Yeah, Paul Roos. She's boys at Paul Roos there.
I was at Paul Roos the other day. I was on stage. I was on stage for praises with. I was there with Joel Stransky. I'm trying to think who else was there. Kubis Visa. Water. Ray Neertland. It was a great evening.
Elbury Sampson. They're saying you watching you acting the other night. Old movie Running Riot.
Running Riot. Yeah, I played a complex, difficult Shakespearean role. I had to play myself, and it's really difficult. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. And then I see the weather guru is on there as well. I see, and watching from Kuwait as well. There's Wendy.
Hello, Wendy.
Wendy now.
There's the lady from Kuwait.
How's it, Wendy? And,
sorry, I didn't get a chance to
XPE. So a lot of our regulars on as well. Levy Bruce, tap on the shoulder to say hi as you go past. Yes.
What about the man from Morocco?
A hard clap in the shoulder blades. Yeah, so knock all the air and dislodge your contact.
Bruce, I was actually interested to find out. I mean, because I'm sure you get this all the time, and people think you're from Durban because you ran so many comrades.
I am an out and out Varley. Okay, that
Varley.
is it. I'm a Varley. I went to, well, actually, so here you go. A lot of people don't know this. I was born in Hong Kong, and I grew up in the Far East. And my father was in the army, and he was posted to Hong Kong, and I was born in Hong Kong. My sister was born in Singapore. Grew up in the Far East for the first few years of our lives. Then I went to a British boarding school for a while because my father lectured at Sandhurst, which is the military academy in the UK. He lectured on jungle warfare. He was an expert on jungle warfare. And then we came back to South Africa. But ever since we came back to South Africa, I have lived in Johannesburg, and I love this city. I'm not to say that I don't love it, but I just love Joburg. Tonight, this evening, was so glorious, just still. The jacaranda trees are just set to explode into people. And my favorite bird. The red-chested cuckoo is back. We're going to get those dark, crackling thunderstorms any day now, where it just goes for an hour, and then the ground steams, and there's hail. And of course, the biggest advantage of living here, if you're a long-distance runner, it's at high altitude.
Yes.
So when you train and live at high altitude, I have a 13% higher red blood cell count than you do. That's it. My bone marrow.
That's why.
My bone. You cannot win the Comrades if you live in Durban, and you cannot win the Two Oceans if you live in Cape Town. You are giving a 13% advantage away, unless you find Lance Armstrong. Obviously, then
Lance could pop off into the bush quickly for a bit of injection.
You got to come up here. So all the top runners from down here, from down below, if they're going to be serious, they come up here for the 13% advantage. And then I ran for the Old Transvaal. I used to wear the white with the red stripe.
Of course, you always had this red stripe.
It's been a bitter topic being a Lions supporter.
It's very unfortunate.
Every now and again we get a curry cup, but that doesn't mean I don't love. I'm privileged to travel all over. And so, as I mentioned to you before we went live, my family roots, however, are completely Eastern Cape. Cousin Bobby is.
So is that your father before he left for Hong Kong then?
No, my father. Your mom. My Fordyce side of the family is Free State. My grandfather was the postmaster of Ladybrand. So I have a spectacular Free State Basutoland stamp collection, which I inherited. I'm a philatelist, and is a very boring subject, but I just spent a lot of money buying the postage dues of South Africa from 1914. I already all over the world, you're losing listenership. People's eyes. Oh God, I'm not a stamp collector. No. Anyway, inherited. And then, so my mother's side is Eastern Cape. So my uncle wrote for what's the newspaper in PE?
The Herald.
Herald.
Yeah, my uncle wrote for the Herald. My grandfather was a district surgeon for East London. He lived in Bunkers Hill in East London.
Okay.
My mother went to Clarendon Girls' School and went to Rhodes, and then she came back and taught at Clarendon Girls' School. But then my father said to her, he was on leave, he was on long leave, and they went on a date to Igoda Beach, where there was champagne and stuff. And if you look at the date of my birth, it's pretty close.
Conceived of Igoda.
He proposed to her and said, "Come to the Far East with me." And for her, a border girl to suddenly say, "You're going to be in Hong Kong, you're going to be in Singapore, you're going to be India," she just jumped at the chance.
Give it horns.
And Bruce, just digressing. What about your body after all those races and the punishment?
Yeah.
So your body?
My right knee is wrecked. My right knee is wrecked. It just packed up over a period of 2 months. I lost all the cartilage in my right knee, but it might have been some kind of autoimmune thing. I don't know. But the surgeons, whenever I go to see them and they talk about a knee replacement, they say, "We don't want to do it because you're not in pain." I'm in no pain. I just hobble.
Yeah, okay.
I can hobble quite still. So I do that, I run, I kind of stick to half marathons and things like that. And then I also think that the surgeons are a little bit nervous because they don't want to be the surgeon who made a hash of Bruce Fordyce. It's not a great, I also think I got a big head, but I don't mean that. But so I take that. If you told me back then when I started, and my first run was 5 minutes around the Wits rugby field. I ran 10 minutes. I ran for 10 minutes around the Wits rugby fields in June 1976. That was my first run. I had to stop and walk a couple of. If you had told me what a kaleidoscope of a life those first few steps would open for me, I would have said to you, I cannot believe it. And the penalty for it will be you'll have a dodgy knee. Well, I can promise you, forget about the winning. That's wonderful. Forget about prize money because there was none. The adventures, the travel, and I think most importantly, the friendships. Runners are bitter rivals. As I said, Alan, Rob, and I, we like two lightweight boxers. I was going to say heavyweight boxers, but very lightweight boxers on the road.
Featherweight.
We'll drink together, and celebrate and whatever. Yeah. So that.
I heard that Faiz was talking earlier about when you came back from India, you went. You mentioned somewhere along the line that it was an art school that you came to in South Africa.
No, school that
something more arty sort of than
typical government school for a while. I'm not going to give the name because I don't want people to get angry with me, the old boys and girls, and I loathed it. Absolutely loathed it. You got caned for having your hair too long, and I'm a goodie. At school, you want me in your class because I'm going to get a first-class matric. I love history. I love English. As I mentioned earlier, not great at maths, but I love. So you need me, but I hated it. I hated the christelijke onderwijs, the kind of we had to do youth, and so I left and I went to probably the most alternative, most radical, most extraordinary school ever called Woodmead in Johannesburg, which no longer exists, but it was completely amazing. My classmates were amazing. We did not have to wear school uniform if we didn't want to. We could grow our hair as long as we liked, as long as we passed, and as long as and I'll tell you why. The first day I got there, so the reason I went was I had a great mate there who is now David Eisenhower, who's professor of jurisprudence and philosophy of law at Toronto University. He's one of the most brightest legal brains in the world. I can tell you. He's got whatever your IQ is, he's 3 times that. But he told me you're going to be so happy there. And the day I got there, we didn't have a school hall, so assembly was held outside on the grass. And I remember standing there with all these dudes and a few girls. We voted to have girls at our school. And there was a water tower, and there was water crashing down, and there were pigeons all over it. And the Afrikaans teacher, Ben Loebsch's giant poodle, Risto, was mating with everybody's legs. And I just thought, you know what? I have come home. I am going to be so happy. That set me up forever. Oh, we defied the government and we allowed black students to attend. So it radicalized me and kind of, I mean,
I sense that you're that kind of guy. I sense that you're obviously you're a bit of a free thinker. You're not.
Question. No,
do you often put your foot in your mouth?
Yeah, I question. Let's not go down that road, but just let's do one thing. That the whole COVID lockdown experience, I questioned every single part of it. I think lockdown was a catastrophic disaster. Didn't save any lives, but it certainly obliterated lots of lives and businesses and stuff like that. It was horrendous. I, for one, will never, ever allow that to happen to me again. I cannot believe that, because we trusted them 3 weeks.
Yeah, of course.
In the curve or whatever it was. So I ran 48 laps of my garden to get a 5K. No one will ever do that to me again. So that's kind of I can get angry about things like that.
But certainly the way where you weren't ADD or anything at school, but you were quite focused and
free spirit.
Yeah.
No,
but more of a bit of a rebel.
Yeah, I mean, you're a muser. Me, you talk to me about music. I'm progressive rock.
Do you like a bit of music? Okay.
I'm a fanatical Tully. So Jethro Tull.
Oh wow!
Great music.
One of the greatest albums ever. Benefit. Jethro Tull. Aqualung also. This was
lovely music.
And
Sitting
then,
on the park bench.
And then Led Zeppelin.
Possibly, my favorite.
It's arguably Stairway to Heaven. It's a toss-up between that and Bohemian Rhapsody for the greatest ever. A single ever written.
Well, that's got the best drummer in the world is John Bonham. Bonzo is my favorite.
Bonham. John Henry Bonham is the greatest drummer. He tightened the skins on his drums more than anybody else, and he used to hit. They say he hit a millisecond faster than anybody else. The one song they've got, I can't remember which one it is, where he had to be a bit quieter. He went into another room and played the drums because it was too loud. But then when you put him with Jimmy Page as a guitarist and Robert Plant as the vocal, and John Paul Jones as the. I mean, it's
incredible. I'll tell you what, you've got to listen to this online. I just saw a video of Jimmy Page. They set up in a room. It was the Edge from U2 and Jack White from White Stripes, and they were trading licks, like showing each other how they did those licks. I mean, White Stripes was that Seven Nation Army, and Jimmy Page just pulled into Whole Lotta Love, and both of them just you can see on their faces they are just like witnessing. In the room together, Jimmy Page playing this like seminal lick, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know them. I feel so sorry for the modern thing. Baby, 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 little baby.
Cats and boots and cats and boots and cats.
I was at school in the early 60s in the UK, and there was nothing but darkness and confusion and boiled cabbage in the air. You know, that kind of
sounds like Russia.
Right? And doggy do on the pavements, and just really, and then out of nowhere, suddenly we heard this love me do. I love you. I'll always do. And the Beatles came like a breath of fresh air, like a rainbow into our lives. And you couldn't keep up with them because as you got used to this stuff, they were busy already, too creative. And I mean, I think, you can argue and argue and argue, but probably the greatest album of all time was Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. They just predicted everything. They predicted everything that would come. They summed up everything that had been before, and they put all their heroes on the album cover. You know, they put everybody on,
correct.
from Einstein to Andy Warhol to Bob Dylan. They put everybody. And so I'm privileged.
But apparently Bob Dylan, Gary says apparently Bob Dylan taught them to smoke dope.
Are you serious?
I don't think Paul McCartney needed much encouraging. And the Rolling Stones, but I just think I was so fortunate to be growing up in that the 60s, 70s. I mean, if I think Woodstock.
Some comments here about Jethro Tull.
Woodstock, I came upon a child of God. He was walking along the road, and I asked him, "Tell me where you're going." He said, "I'm going down to Yazga's farm. I'm going to join in a rock and roll show." And they thought they would get 20,000 people, and they had 500,000. By the time we were 500,000 strong. That's Joni Mitchell who wrote that book.
Oh man, isn't that fantastic song that as well? That intro lick, jump back and bap and bound and back, and it's just beautiful. That I mean, as a drummer, I love percussive playing, and that's my thing. Give me a percussive guitar player and someone like Jimmy Page or so. It's just amazing. John Bonham's big drum part was when the levee breaks, where he plays.
One of the great songs. When the levee
put a microphone in a stairwell. He recorded that in a stairwell, a big stairwell
next to us.
He put a mic in the first floor. Yeah, and it's just huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
You play an instrument?
Do you play anything?
Bruce?
If I had to do it all over again, there is only one thing I'd change. Well, two. I wouldn't let Elaine break up with me, and the second one is that I would have loved to have learned a musical instrument really, really well, but not in front of the bride saying there is a house in your. I mean, a proper play anything. I mean, I love the saxophone, so that would
great instrument.
So that's probably the only. But I did sing in the King's School Canterbury Choir. I sang in Canterbury Cathedral. I was an absolute angel. I had a red cassock, a little ruff. I could find a photograph, and I sang once in Royal David City on my own in that cathedral. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my life. I think I was 10. Once in Royal David.
Those little nuts.
I was a young boy, and a young boy is a treble. A woman is a soprano, but a boy is a treble. That's even higher, one octave higher.
Yes.
I could crack those notes. Yeah, that's no.
Bruce, you're clearly a bit of a social animal.
Yeah.
I am the opposite of the loneliness of the long distance runner. There's a book called Alan Silito called The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner. I love people, and I love being with people, and I love entertaining. I can be a bit of a comedian if I want to,
Yes.
My two tortoises mating is one of the most legendary things you've ever seen in your life. But I got to get a willing victim to be the tortoise. It's very funny.
Tell me something. What did you do after the Comrades? After a victory, especially?
So what I did, that was the other thing, is I was very good at recovery. So a lot of other runners, they get all fired up because they've done so well, and they can't wait to get it. Let's get a great marathon time now. Let's go and do it now. Yeah. I used to completely rest. And so what I did, to steal from Star Wars, is Darth Vader. Remember when he says to Luke, he says, "Luke, come over to the dark side." And for the whole of the next 6 weeks, I would explore the dark side. And so
I sense that, Bruce, I can see, obviously. I sense, do you get yourself into trouble a lot?
I do. But not only naughty trouble, I'm not an evil person, I don't think, I can get angry about things that I feel. Injustice. I hate injustice. I hate greed. And I think the worst of all things, I hate arrogance. I hate people who think they're important because they're a minister or something like that, or they're a whatever. I hate that. So arrogance I can't bear, and And, you know,
Is that one of your bugbears?
I agree.
Yeah, I can't bear that.
And you were talking earlier about being on the bus at Oliver Tambo. Do you get a rest in public?
No, I've got just the most delightful amount of fame, so to speak. So there's the odd person who recognizes me, but with increasing years, of course, you know, fewer and fewer, and it's really sad because sometimes really nice people come up to me and say stuff like, "My mother really loves you." Oh, God,
You get worm a lot.
What about you?
At Comrades, obviously at Comrades times it's hectic. You know, the weekend of Comrades, it's hectic. Then I have a peak cap, and just to try and get somewhere, I got to get there, because you can't. If somebody stops you for a photo or an autograph, and you don't do it, you make an enemy for life. So the best way. This sounds terrible, but try and avoid getting cornered. It's not that. It's that when you get cornered, then a whole lot of other people come, and then you can't get to the meeting you've got to get to. And then the other one that was fantastic, I just loved it, because I was with my English family. My sister lives in London, and Cupdown-Tebe, and Rushall near the Stonehenge, and Clarence and so on. He's married quite well. We were at the rugby in Marseille because. So let me explain. I got no money. Did I mention there was no prize money nowadays?
Yes, we wanted to actually talk about that.
A lot of copies. But so there's a race called the London to Brighton, which goes from Big Ben to Brighton Pier, and it's the same distance as Comrades with hills. And I ran it in the 80s. I ran 3 times, and they had a reunion, and they got no money either. So they just asked all past winners and people who've run, if we're going to have this reunion lunch and come along and whatever. And so I just thought, what the hell, I'll go. You know, we're going to go for 1 week. And then my son Jonathan said, "But Dad, if you stay 1 more week, you can watch Scotland, South Africa in the rugby." And I said, "But that's in France." And he looks at me over. He says, "Dad, your sister, my aunt, has a house in Cupdown-Tebe, which is very close to Marseille."
Yes.
So we went anyway. So then we're like at the game. Before the game, we're milling around, and I've got my whole English family there, and the South Africans went mad when they saw me. I was like a piece of biltong, Bruce, and it was so good for my ego, because my sister there, you are actually quite well known as that was good for my ego.
That's nice. But I sense that you enjoy people, so you are a kind of people person. You enjoy that.
I love people.
Bruce, you've touched on the fact that you never got paid for the Comrades. Was there no spin-off for you?
I would be lying if I said there was no spin-off. Okay, so there was no prize money.
No prize money.
Now, if you win Comrades, R500,000 rand. Yeah. But I'm not upset. I mean, I'm not bitter. But $500,000 times 9 is not bad, but I didn't get that. And then if you break the course record, so if you break the standing course record, you get another $500,000 times 5. And I'm not upset.
It's not breaking.
Not at all.
The other day, before my knee packed up, I won a race in Joburg called the Gerald Fox Zoo Lake 10K. I won the race, okay. I didn't actually win the race overall. That had been won by a younger, thinner, faster guy than me. But when I crossed the finish line, one of the officials said, "Fordyce, you better stay behind afterwards for the prize giving, because we think you've won the Masters, the over 50 section."
All right.
I got 100 rand.
Gee whiz.
I got this blue note. I didn't want to spend. So I got an envelope with first master, 100. But look, my entry fee was 50, so I lost half of it. And then on the way out, I was starving, so I had to buy a burri roll for 25. Yeah. And because of Tim Noakes, I had to throw the bread away. Oh, it was anyway.
Tell me about the park runs as well. I want to find out, because you were part of the formation of the park runs, weren't you?
So just to finish your last question, I did benefit, because I got a couple of TV ads and endorsements and stuff. So I would be lying. And then I started doing a lot of motivational speaking, and I got a lot of work. Mornay Duplessis formed a company of sportsmen and women, and we worked together, and we did a whole day's motivational thing. Mornay did what it's like to be a leader, I did individual motivation. Clive Rice, sadly no longer with us. He spoke about what it's like to be a leader. Vince Bale spoke about being part of a winning team. And so we had a lot of us, and we worked. And so there was a lot. And then now you really have to be old. But I once appeared in an TV ad for Ed Blow mattresses. Ed Blow.
I can remember that.
I'll be vaguely
I
remember that as
remember
well.
that too.
Ed Blow mattresses. It's like an extra 2 hours sleep a night. Oh, right.
You need to rest after this. You have to rest after this race.
And although it was an amateur era, were the guys fiercely competitive? I mean, you had a lot of great runners in those days.
And there was a lot of amateur, I remember I came third in the Stellenbosch in 1 year. Stellenbosch Marathon, great marathon in those days. I came third and I ran really well. But I tried to ask the race organizer for money to help me come down to Stellenbosch to run. And he said, I tell you what, Bruce, I don't have any. But if you perform on the day, I'll sort you out. And then I came third in a great race. I just lost it. And I got the trophy for third place. And he looked at me, he said, Bruce, when you're in the gents, open the lid of the trophy.
There we go.
Wonderful.
Because they weren't allowed to in those days, so
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Have you got something you want to ask?
I've got a couple of questions. This is a final whip-up kind of questions.
Oh,
after,
I see.
But we've got, I don't know if
Okay, but what about our mate from Morocco?
Oh, yes. Yes. We've got Alec. Alec
your
Riddle.
mate, sir.
Alec Riddle's in Morocco at the moment, but he's specially sent some questions for you. So let's have a check what he's
How's it
got.
going, Gino? Alec here from Morocco. Wanted to send you a message and a question for Mr. Bruce Fordyce. Perhaps you can ask him about the 1989 Great Train Race, when we took a chance and we put a female, Colleen de Rook, in our team, and we put a very slow Comrades runner, Bruce Fordyce, in our team, and he can tell you the rest.
Yeah, so
that?
we the train race. Sadly, I don't think it goes on anymore, does it?
No.
But it was
No.
resurrect that. That was such fun.
Yeah.
The whole team came and they ran and you raced the train, but that wasn't. You raced each other, and there were teams, and we put together a crackerjack team. But we had Colleen de Rook in our team, so we had one lady who you would think would be a weak link, but it wasn't. She can really run. I was the weak link.
Probably.
And I had no, I mean our team, Alec, by the way, he won't tell people, but he was very quick over the shorter distances. Not Comrades, but he's very quick. He used to run the PE Street Mile in December, and Alec would be riding over 1 mile. But the only thing was our team was sponsored, and so the sponsor said, we want Bruce to run the last leg because then we get more. Bruce runs the last leg. So that was huge pressure on me. And there's nothing worse than waiting for everyone else to run their legs. And they come in and they're pouring sweat and they're nearly vomiting, and then it's your turn. So what happened was I said, and in the last leg, it was 8.2 Ks down into the station at Lurie. I was racing against, my leg would be against Matthews Lopenval Motswaro, who was the SA cross-country champion, world record holder for 10 Ks on the road, and considerably faster than me over 8 Ks. So I said, guys, I don't care. If you don't give me 2 minutes, I need 2 minutes on Matthews. I'm not even going to try. Because he'll eat me up. But they gave me 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And I remember, who was Solomon and Keddy, somebody like that, came around on the leg to hand me the baton. His legs were airborne because the guys there was quite a lot of prize money divided in the team, and they really wanted that prize money. And they gave it to, and Matthews made one mistake. He started too fast. Remember I said start like a coward and finish like a hero? Started too fast chasing me because he knew he was quicker than me. And so I think he blitzed his first K so fast and then still ate into my lead. I beat him by 47 seconds. So I had 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And I beat him by 47 seconds. And I have never in my life felt such pressure because a combi comes along your team and they've all got watches out and they're ticking. Males are also great because they think thinking he's going to get caught. Oh, why did we put him on the last leg? It was the proudest moment of my life because I held old Matthews off. I mean, obviously, in reality, he gave me a club, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's got another question here. Let's have a look at what else Alex got to say.
And then a question that will definitely interest the historians and ladies. Perhaps you can ask Bruce about his meeting with the Queen. Yeah, quite an interesting story, that one.
Oh,
How you met the Queen?
So I met the Queen. So, and I mean the Queen, not Freddie Mercury. I read. I did some work with major government back in all those years, 95 or something like that, with sports equipment. I won't bore you. And I worked with a lovely lady called Sally Gunnell, who was the 400-meter hurdles champion from the Olympics. And I think because of that, I cracked an invite. The Queen was here and I got an invitation. So this invitation arrives and it's sealed with sealing wax. And you realize this is not a normal, remember in the old days you posted a letter?
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't happen anymore, but anyway. And it had sealing wax with the Queen's seal on it, which was like with a portcullis. That's the iron bridge that was in, and her crown on it. And then I cracked open this thing. It was written in the most beautiful English. It said, "On the occasion of the visit of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II and His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, I, the High Commissioner to Sir Anthony Reeve, the High Commissioner to South Africa, am commanded by Her Majesty to invite you to a reception." So you don't say, "Oh, well, I'm busy there."
Oh, wow.
Obviously, go. It turns out to be the most expensive thing I ever did because I got a new suit and my wife Jill had to get a new dress. I said to her, "Jill, the Queen's never seen any of your dresses. That didn't work." I had to get a new dress. She had to get a new. And then you arrive and you've got all these instructions about how you behave if you meet the Queen. You have to bow. Call you Your Majesty the first time. Thereafter, ma'am, to rhyme with jam, not mom. Mom is the owner of a brothel, so you can't call her mom. You can't ask the Queen any questions. She's the only one who can ask questions. You cannot turn your back on the Queen. You have to walk away from the Queen backwards. And if she's not introduced you, she's going to ask you one of two questions: have you come far, or have you raised, or have you, or what do you do? And you got your name. And that's basically it. So they paint two tram lines on the floor where she's going to walk, and in came the Queen, and it was astonishing because she looked exactly like the Queen, and she walked, and the High Commissioner was introducing her to various important people that she should meet. Businessmen spending billions with Britain and, politicians and people like that. She's never going to meet me. I'm just a lonely runner. But as she got opposite me, the High Commissioner abandoned her for a second because he was looking for someone important that she should meet. And she turned around and she looked right at me and our eyes locked, mainly because we're the same height. And she walked towards me. And I'm comfortable. I can give a speech. I can meet people. I'm fairly comfortable. But the Queen, as she walked towards me, the world's most powerful woman, she had lived at that stage through, I think, 15 or 16 U.S. presidents. Eisenhower was her first U.S. president. Kennedy, Carter, Reagan, all those names. She's seen them come and go. And then her own prime ministers. Her first prime minister was Churchill.
Correct.
Churchill, Maggie Thatcher, the whole lot. So she's walking towards me. I think, whoa. Don't make one mistake, mate, because you make one mistake, your head is off and it's stuck on a spike. Stuck on a spike of Balmoral as an example to the Commonwealth. Who calls her mom instead of ma'am. And so don't make a mistake. And then we started chatting and we had the longest conversation of anyone in the whole lineup. Wow. And I had the South Africa's top tax lawyers digging me in the back saying, introduce me. I say, I'm talking to the Queen here, but so I've got a lot of friends who come from the Grove, Orange Grove, so I can lapse into Orange Grove. It's the most delicious language, wonderful blend of Lebanese, Jewish, Portuguese, Italian. Listen.
They shorten all the words.
I'm digressing, but I remember with one of my mates going past a house in Bedford View, and he said, "Oh, China, clock that Oaks cabin. You must have lank lutkers, hey?" I thought, that's really interesting, because I majored in English at Wits. Very wrong as my teacher. That's lame. So I've finally deciphered it. Clock that Oak's cabin, China, means have a look at that person's house, my mate. He must have lank blood. It means he must be very rich. Anyway, so go back to my conversation. And so then the Queen said to me, "So what do you do, Mr. Fordyce?" So I said, "Well, I'm very good at doing the Queen's voice." I said, "I'm a marathon runner, Your Majesty." She had just been with children in Soweto in the morning. And so we had a long conversation. And at the end of it, she said, "Mr. Fordyce, I do hope you'll forgive me, but I always thought that marathon runners had to be big and powerful and strong. And you appear very good name. It's just like
Oh, my word.
brain cells to the stupid thing to do." She said, "It's yeah, so we had a long time.
Very good. Oh, but Bruce,
Giovanni, I sort of ask one more question.
Yeah.
What prevented you or stopped you from winning a 10th Comrades? Was it an injury, or had you decided that you've gone to the wall?
You see, everyone wants to tack on my last win after I'd won 9. What
yes,
prevented?
of course, everyone. It's like Lewis Hamilton. It's
Very much.
Who prevented me was Alan Robb, because in 1980, before
really?
I'd won 1, he wouldn't slow down on Berea Road.
Okay.
But if you really say to me, the last time I won in 1990, I'm sure every sportsman and woman has that time. I won almost by default.
Really?
Mark had the race. He had the race, but he started walking on poly shorts, and I caught him. And then when I caught him, and they held out of the last 6 Ks and held him off.
Yeah.
My sister, who, as I told you, lives in London, in Captain T, in the country, in Wiltshire, she had never seen me run a Comrades, and she came out, and they treated her like a VIP so she could watch. And she was the first one to hug me when I crossed the line. And she reminded me, I said to her, as I crossed the line, I said, "It is over. I will never win another one." I told her, because I got it by default. I was just a bit slow. I wasn't in control anymore. And Gary Bailey, who was at university with me, Gary, who was Manchester United goalkeeper.
yes, goalkeeper, yeah.
He told me one day he dived for a save, and it went in because his fingers bent back. And he said, but the season before, his fingers wouldn't have gone back, because he would have been just that further. He would have saved it. And he said, you just realize. And I think even the rugby players, you'll come into the dressing room and just say, "Guys, I think I don't have it anymore. I'm just too sore." It was me. I knew I would never win again. I just knew. And I'm not a negative thinker, and it was a good time to bow out. And my mother, by the way, who's sadly passed away, but my mother never forgave me for not winning 10. She never forgave me.
The road student.
It was an absolute pleasure watching it. I mean, much like when Bjorn Borg left Wimbledon, I stopped watching tennis. When he left the Comrades, I stopped watching the Comrades. I was actually pissed off.
Well, I tell you what, Bruce, you certainly got the Comrades in a golden era,
It was wonderful. We had Flip van der Merwe, who was an absolute queen of the ladies' race, and then the greatest single Comrades run, and probably the greatest Comrades runner, Wally Hayward. At the age of 80, he ran the 1988 up run. I won it, by the way, with a record, but all the attention was on that old guy.
Wally, yes.
He ran it at the age of 80 in 9:45. Most extraordinary performance. You're supposed to be dead at 80, not running Comrades. No, for sure. Well, Bruce, it's been fantastic having you on, man. I've got the questions we normally say for a little bit of fun at the end.
Careful.
Just something particularly spontaneous or irresponsible that you've done.
I've written about it in my next book. Did I mention I'm writing another book? In the height, but you guys weren't born then, but there was a phase when everyone was streaking. Everyone was going on a streak. And I went with mates. We were in Northcliffe in Joburg, and we went for a streak in the middle of the night. We took all our kit off, 5 of us, and we ran through a major shopping center in Northcliffe, and there was nobody. There was absolutely nobody there. It was so disappointing. And then we ran down. There was one car that came towards us, one car. And guess what? It was a police car.
Oh, no.
When the doors opened, it's actually not that funny. The doors opened and these cops came out and they piled into my mates. I dived into a felt and I hid behind a bush. My mates, whose names, they got criminal records for public nudity, which they had expunged. But they had criminal records for about 20 years for public indecency, and they eventually got it expunged. Every time they went overseas, they had to be drawn aside into another room. What did you do? Okay. Anyway, so I then emerged from this felt where I had hidden, and I didn't know the way back to the place where we had left, and I was naked. So the only way I could work out how to save myself was to retrace our steps exactly. So I ran back through the same shopping center, which now the movie was packed with thousands of people.
That's a classic. I love it.
So that was, that's it. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Bruce. It's been fantastic. I think we've got a good insight as to the real Bruce Fordyce here.
A real character.
Yeah, I think your intelligence saves you from certainly putting your foot in your mouth all the time. You're lucky you've got the brains to match it.
That photograph, by the way, you put up is from the 1981, where I'm doing a thumbs up because I was wearing a black armband protesting against apartheid.
I wanted to. In fact, I was
getting hit by tomatoes and getting abused by a lot of the spectators. And that was my seconds and my loved ones, and they were saying to me, "Are you okay, boy?" Because I was getting hammered. I was when I finished, I was covered in eggs and tomato. But anyway, and I was just saying to them, "Don't worry, I'm all right." So that's why that photo for me is a very important photo in my life. It was a young guy.
What was it all about, Bruce?
What
was the actual protest about?
Comrades, to its eternal shame, decided to associate itself with the 20 years of apartheid celebrations in 1981. And they decided that they took money from the government to be part of the celebration. You know, tank parades and flypasts and politicians. And so a lot of people withdrew, but then a bunch of us decided we would show our displeasure by wearing armbands. You can't see the armband in the photo because it's on the other arm. But it was fine, and I wasn't the only one, but unfortunately was the prominent one because I was in front. So I got a hell of a lot of abuse. And when I crossed the line, my father, I remember his words, he said, "What have they done to you?" Because I was like, spat at and whatever. But don't get me angry. Don't get me angry, because one thing I decided on that road, I will win. I don't care what happens, I'll win. Then I got back to my flat in Braamfontein in Joburg, and the security police had broken in and they'd taken every one of my records and scratched them right across the step. And they urinated on my bed, and
Zeppelin 1.
Shocking.
But then what's funny is when you start to win again, then the people start to love you, you know. So by the time
of course, correct.
One to the third time that but I'm proud of it.
Well, sport is such a powerful thing. It does that. It breaks those barriers.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
But no, from both of us, thank you very, very much. It's been an
fantastic interview. Thank you so much, Bruce. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on board.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, we'll be in touch, and we'll send up a case of Fitch and Leeds for you. We must just get the address to send it to.
And then tell everyone they got to start park running. That's my new thing. Is that I started park run in South Africa, and I'm so proud of it. It's too wonderful for 1.4 million registered members.
Unbelievable.
And next Saturday, not the park run's about me, but next Saturday I'm running my 500th. So I'm as chuffed about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I can say that I did come in just before Tim Briscoe, the last park run or anything. Although he is 70 odd, I think.
Yeah.
No, listen, it's popular.
On over 90 Ks. I wouldn't try that.
Yeah. And I tell you what, he ran it in just under 20 minutes, or just on 20 minutes, I think.
At least, 20 minutes, I've still got 2 Ks to go.
But thank you so
much for your time.
Absolute pleasure beginning to know you, Bruce. Thanks, man.
By the way, sorry, that's a funny thing that's on my wrist. That's my barcode that gets scanned.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, you scan it in.
Yeah.
No, the park run's been absolutely brilliant. I've loved them.
I'm so proud of it.
I must tell you, you're a real character. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
I had an off night. Normally, I talk a lot.
Well, you can go and have a glass of wine now.
I might have a Cheers, guys.
Enjoy it.
Ciao, Bruce.
Thank you very much, Bruce.
All right, we're gonna do the competition for the people online now as well, guys. Online, we're gonna pull the lever, and Fires breaks our headphones every time he comes back. We're gonna pull the lever and see who the winner's gonna be for our Fitch and Leeds that we're gonna send to a lucky winner. So hang on 2 seconds while Gary gets it ready. I don't know if he's got it already. He's going to share it quickly so that we can see who all the names coming through there. And thank you to our sponsor Spar as well as Fitch and Leeds, who do who send for our winners, and then also Amobia, who does our internet. Nicholas, you've been fantastic. Sovereign just below us, of course, too, is also now online. And there we go, Jeff Applewhite, just up the road. Here we go. Jeff Applewhite is our winner. Thank you so much for joining us. Next week, we've got Jimmy Price, who is with the automotive guys. It's High-Tech Automotive, who does the GT40s. They're making those beautiful V8 Fords and the Cobras, the Cobras. We've got a factory right here in PE. We're going to be finding out about it. Unbelievable stuff. In fact, it's an amazing factory there. And so we'll see you next Tuesday. Thank you, Fires.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Always good to be with you.
Amazing. And thank you to Bruce Fordyce. Amazing guest. Cheers, guys. We'll see you then.
Coming out of PE town. One drink, find a shot. Never mind your liver. Get to Gino's spot.
Gino's spot.
Get to Gino's spot.
Gino's spot.
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your middle. Have a Gino shot.